Hey, what's going on, guys? It's John back with another video. And in today's quick lesson, what I want to do is show you guys a chord progression that I've been kind of noodling around with. I'm going to dig into it, show you guys how I'm doing it, show you the chord progression, show you the chords that I'm using, and hopefully with some of these concepts, you can take them to other keys and improve your playing. So we're going to jump right into it. So we're going to be in the key of F today. And what I'm going to do is just going to play through it very briefly, and then we're going to kind of peel back the layers and see what it is that we're actually doing. So without any further ado, here's the chord progression that we'll be going through. Okay, so that chord progression is in the key of F, and what we're doing is, if you follow my left hand over here, we're just going to follow the bass note. So we're playing a 2, 5, 1 to a 6. Okay, now what you're going to notice is that on my right hand, I'm actually not doing too much movement. There's 3 basic chords that I am playing, and it's this minor 9 shape. Okay, if I have my G over here in the bass, this is what we call a minor 9. Now, how do we get to a minor 9? Well, all you have to do is spell it out. So we're going to start with just a root G minor, right? Root, flat third, and fifth. Okay, now you have to know a little bit of theory to understand what I'm doing here. So if you don't understand your basic major scale, if you don't understand your major chords and minor chords, then this video might be a little bit too advanced for you. I'd say brush up on that and then come back and take a look at what we're doing here. But if we just start off with our bass G minor chord, right? What we're doing is a G minor 9. So that means we have to build up to that 9th chord tone. Okay, so we have our 1, our flat 3, our 5, and if you watched my theory video on how to build 7th chords and other extensions, you'll know that if we play this F, it becomes a G minor 7, and if we play this A over here, it becomes a G minor 9. Okay, now most people have a hard time playing this with just one hand. I can reach it with all 5 fingers. I normally would switch it up like this and separate it. But if you noticed, what I did was I actually closed the chord up, okay? And this is an inversion, okay? And an inversion is all we're doing is rearranging the notes that are being played. So in root position, this is what a G minor 9 looks like, okay? What would have happened if we were to take these 2 top notes and move them further down this way, right? So we're going to take the F here and the A over here and actually move them closer down to the left of our chord. So now we're going to play the F here, and instead of playing this G, we're going to omit it because we're already playing it with our left hand, right? So we don't have to double up the G if we don't want to, and we'll play the A instead. So now we've taken this larger chord and turned it into this, okay? This voicing is the basis for this chord progression, okay? If you look, this chord is a very similar shape to, well, it's the exact same shape, but I'm going to show you guys something here in a minute. When I go to my 5 chord, the only thing I'm doing is changing my bass, right? So the first 2 chords of the song, the 2 and the 5, this is it. Just keeping that voicing in my right hand and changing my bass from a 2 to a 5. Then we go to the 1. Okay, now what you'll notice here is on the 1, I have a very similar grouping of notes. And this is what we call clusters. Okay, and a cluster is just where instead of playing chords like this, opened up, we play them closer. Okay, so in this particular case, I am on the 1 chord. Now, if you notice, I'm not playing the F in my right hand, it's happening on my left hand. And this is a technique that intermediate to advanced players use to kind of sweeten up the voicings of their chords. What we're used to is, if we're playing a 1 chord, we normally play the root note in both our right hand and our left hand. But one thing that you can do to kind of get a little bit more of an advanced sound is actually take the root note out of your right hand and just play it in your left hand. And if you're really good and you have a bass player with you, in some cases you don't have to play your left hand either, which also frees this hand up to do chords while this one can do melody. But without getting too far into the weeds, this is going to be our 1 chord, okay? And so the only change that we're doing here is we are basically, if you start with an F major 7, which is F, A, C, E, with our F in the bass, the only thing I'm doing is taking this F and I'm moving it up to a G. That turns it into a F major 9. So if you notice, there's a little bit of a pattern here with our chords. So we're going from a minor 9, okay, changing our bass, which turns this into that monstrosity. But that's neither here nor there. The whole point is just the sound, right? We don't care about all of the craziness of the chord at F6, add 11 over C. We don't care about that. What we care about is this sound, right? And then we go to the 1. Okay, it's also an F major 9. So we're going from this minor 9 shape to a major 9 shape. Okay, so let's just go through that part really quickly once again. So we're starting on the 2 with this voicing, this closed voicing. To the 5. Only thing I changed was my bass note. Go back to the 2 again. And this is how I want you to practice it. Just take it slow. Just do the 2 to the 5 with some feeling, right? Now let's go to the 1. From the 5 to the 1. Get used to that movement. 5 to the 1. Okay? So what I really want you to do is pay attention to how smooth that transition is. And for these first 3 chords, I'm only really moving my hand twice, my right hand twice. Keeping this chord here, staying here, just moving my bass note, and then I move my right hand. Okay? Very, very simple for the beginning. So I hope you guys are following me so far. If you've gotten confused up to this point, just rewind it a little bit, do some slow motion, really grab the voicings of the chord. There's nothing wrong with pausing the screen and really looking at where my fingers are, okay? Because what I want you to do is grab these chords, because at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to apply it in another key as well, just to show you guys that things like these can be applied to other keys. You don't always just have to learn one thing in one key, all right? So let's move to that last chord, right? So 2, 5, 1, okay? Now what about that 6 chord that I did? Okay, this is a dominant 7 chord with a flat 9, and I'm not even going to begin to get into the theory on this. But essentially, we have a D dominant 7 chord. Okay, remember dominant 7, you actually take the major 7 and you just flat it. And then how we've been doing with our 9 chords, this is still a type of 9th chord. So our 9 would actually be right here on the E. Okay, but it's a flat 9 that we want. So we actually take this note and we flatten it. That's the really quick and dirty version of getting to that chord. What I really want you guys to focus on is really just grabbing some of these different voicings and stuff. But for those of you that understand a little bit of theory, it might be better for you to actually hear me explain the spelling out of the chord, just because it might be easy for you to understand. But for those of you that don't understand all that theory yet, just look at what I'm doing. Don't worry about what I'm saying. Just look at what I'm doing, okay? And if you have to, just take it up note by note when you're practicing it in other keys, okay? But so if we're starting on this 1 chord, let's zoom in here again. So we're on this 1 chord, right? To get to that 6 chord, the only thing that I'm doing is I'm taking my first finger and my last finger and flattening them by 1 note. You see that? Look at the screen up here, right? Look at this. Just those 2. That's the only thing I'm moving. Okay? And when I go to that chord, I just have a 6 in my bass. That is the whole chord progression. So if I were to just play my right hand, this is what I would be playing. 2 to the 5 to the 1 to the 6. Add my left hand to the 5 to the 1 and to the 6 to the 2. Okay? So that is the chord progression. Very, very simple once you can get your fingers to grab those chords, okay? That was just a beginner's take on that chord progression. Now what I'm going to do is show you guys an intermediate and advanced way to play this chord progression, adding in a little bit more for my more seasoned musicians. Those of you who are still beginners, who that was enough for you, you can go on ahead and click off of this video. It's perfectly okay. This next section is going to be for our advanced and intermediate players. Okay, so for my advanced and intermediate players, what you can do is actually do a different inversion. Okay, when you're on your 2 chord, okay, and you go to your 5 chord, instead of doing this, what you can do is actually take this F and move it up here. And what that does is that it kind of pushes the chord progression a little bit farther. It feels like you're lifting more. So instead of staying stagnant here, you're almost kind of voice leading when you do it this way. It's the same chord, just inverted differently. We're just moving this F up here, okay? And one way how I like to get to this voicing is taking this same shape and literally moving it up the F scale. So F, this F down here, this is where I'm talking about my F scale. So I'm kind of moving it up. As you can see, my first 3 notes were just the first 3 notes of the F scale, F, G, A. But I use that same voicing in this case. Okay? And those of you who are eagle-eyed and you caught it, the only thing that I'm doing is playing the same chord that I played before on my 1. So here's my 2 chord. You guys remember when we played this on the 1 chord? Right? It's the same exact chord. I'm just using it as a pivot point for me to move to this chord, which is just an inversion of this chord. Okay? So I'm going to say that again very slowly. I'm just taking this chord and moving it up to the inverted version of it. Okay? The only difference between this chord and this chord is that this F is moved up here instead. And the chord in the middle is the same chord that we've learned already. Okay? So here's in practice how that would sound. Okay, so now that we've kind of gone through the chord progression and using those different leading chords as well, what I'm going to do is add a little bit more rhythm to my bass. I'm going to add a little bit more arpeggios in my right hand so that you guys can see how you can take a simple chord progression and really vibe with it and make it your own. Okay, so what I was doing there was really just doing a lot of chromatic approaches with my bass. See that chromatic approach? A lot of that has to come, that's going to come with experience, but as you play more, as you listen to more music, you'll start to hear these little things. And when you're listening to music, don't just listen to the keyboard player, listen to the bass player, listen to the drummer, listen to the guitar player. A lot of these different things that I'm implementing are actually things that I've grabbed from different instruments. Okay, so when I'm doing those different chromatic approaches and stuff, I actually get that from bass players. And don't be afraid to just hit random notes while you're getting there, okay? A lot of the times we put ourselves into this box and it's like, I can only play these notes and nothing else. But the beauty in experimenting with those different things is having the freedom to just kind of go where you want. Okay. So for my intermediate to advanced players, that's going to be something that I want you guys to work on, really working on adding in some of those rhythmic flares, adding in those arpeggios. And those arpeggios are nothing more than just playing broken chords and playing different, scale tones. Doing some approach notes, even here, some grace notes. That little flick that I did there from the D, from the D flat to the D. Doing little tricks like that. I even did it here on the E over here. Right? So those are little things here and there that you can grab. Okay. And the last thing that I want to show you guys is actually me transferring this to another key. You might look at something like that and immediately say, wow, there is no way that I can even play it in the key of F. You want me to transfer it to other keys? What I want to do is actually show you that you can, okay? A lot of these different videos that are out here, they'll just show you it in one key and then say, hey, go practice it. But I want to show you guys how easy it is that once you understand the concepts to be able to actually transfer this to another key. And what we're going to do is actually transfer it into the key of A. And what this is also going to show you is that patterns are different depending on the key you're in. So if you're having an issue doing this in a different key, or even if you're just doing some basic chord progressions and you're having problems, you know what the chord progression is, but you're having problems playing it in other keys, this is going to help you guys out. Okay, so I'm just going to show you guys one more time in F so that way you can kind of see the shapes that I've got going on. Okay, when we move it to a key like A, watch how my fingering and the shape of the chords are going to change. And what I want you to do is focus on the yellow notes up here. Focus on the different spread of the notes. They're still going to be clusters, but they're going to be in different shapes. Very different. Chord progression is still the same. But the voicing, while the voicings are still the same, the shape is different. Okay, and as you'll notice in this particular key, the motif or the idea of the shape changes a little bit. So we have this. Okay. In this particular key, the notes look like they're spread out more evenly, but they're actually not. The intervals are still the same. In some cases, you have this instance where we have these notes rub up against each other. In other areas, it looks like the chord is equally spread out. And then we're back to having this dissonance right here with these two notes rubbing against each other. Spread out again. And this also looks equally spread out, but it's almost kind of like you have this dichotomy because the notes are spread equally out. So you're expecting to hear a much more pleasant sound, but this sound is a diminished chord. And so it sounds very abrasive, right? And when you add this bass note in, it really kind of just changes, what you're hearing versus what you're seeing, So when you're practicing all of these different things in these different keys, keep in mind that these shapes are going to look different, okay? Again, I'm going to do it in the key of G, and then I'm going to seamlessly take it over into the key of A. And what I really want you guys to do is focus on the change of the shape, okay? I'm not going into too much detail on the different voicings that I'm doing in the key of A because I don't want to overload you with too much information. But what I want you to do is take note of how the shapes change, but the chord progression stays the same. Do it one more time in G. I'll do it simple real quick. To the key of A. Back to G. that's it for today's video. If you guys have any questions for me in regards to any of the topics or things that I went over in this video, let me know down in the comment section below. I know that this was a little bit more of an advanced video, but I know we've been doing a lot of beginner stuff, especially some of the older videos that I posted were really focused on beginners. And what I really wanted to do was kind of keep you guys progressing, keep you guys challenged, keep you guys doing something different. And so this video was to still kind of go over some of those fundamentals, but also help you kind of break that plateau of being and, you know, just that basic mode of just playing your triads and just kind of going through things. I know that this video was a little bit fast, and I might not have explained everything quite as clearly as you wanted me to. So if that is the case, let me know down in the comment section below, so that way I can continue to grow with you guys, to continue to give you guys the content that you want, the way that you want it. And that's it. You guys have a great rest of the day. Take it easy.